What was something your brother did that you found hilarious? When I found out I was pregnant, it felt like everything in my world realigned, like all the small disappointments, heartbreaks, and sleepless nights had led to this single point of light. Tund and I had been trying for 2 years. 2 years of tests, medications, and hopeful mornings that ended with quiet tears. When the doctor finally confirmed it, I sat in the car outside the hospital, one hand on my belly, whispering thank you over and over. We promised not to tell anyone the name we chose until after the birth. It was something sacred to us, something just ours. Tund said the name had to mean something deep, strong, timeless, and blessed, so we spent evenings curled on the couch with baby. Name books scattered all around, laughing over ridiculous options, debating meanings, mixing and matching first and middle names until it just felt right. Ethan Chisholm, Tund said one night, his voice soft, almost reverent. Ethan, I repeated, testing it on my tongue. It felt perfect, a name that sounded both gentle and strong. And Chisholm meaning God is with me tied it back to our faith, our gratitude. We sealed the decision with a quiet smile and a kiss. Ethan Chisholm Tund, I said finally. Our son, my brother, Chi-Jiok, had always been my closest friend. We'd shared everything, secrets, savings, even heartbreaks. When he married Lillian, I welcomed her like a sister. She was talkative, confident, and had a way of turning every conversation toward herself. But I tried not to mind. Family is family. When I told them we were expecting, Chi-Jiok hugged me so tightly I thought he might cry. Lillian clapped her hands and said, finally, now we'll have cousins growing up together, maybe even best friends. At the time, it sounded sweet. I had no idea she meant something else entirely. The months went by quickly. We had a small baby shower at my parents' house, all pastel balloons and laughter. Everyone kept asking if we'd chosen a name, and I just smiled. We'll reveal it after he's born. Lillian, though, pressed harder than anyone. What letter does it start with? She'd tease. Come on, Amara. Tell me. I won't steal it, I promise. I laughed, brushing it off. You'll find out soon enough. When Ethan was born, I was so overwhelmed that I didn't even notice how quiet. Lillian had been on the family group chat. She congratulated us with a heart emoji and said she was feeling tired lately. Pregnancy symptoms. That was it. It wasn't until 3 months later that I realized something wasn't right. Lillian gave birth to a baby boy too, and my brother was over the moon. He sent photos to the group chat, beaming in everyone. But when I clicked on the picture of the little name tag on the hospital bassinet, my hands froze. Baby Ethan Chisholm Okafor. For a moment, I genuinely thought it was a joke. I even laughed, one of those awkward, confused laughs you let out when you don't yet believe what you're seeing. But the longer I stared, the heavier my chest felt. That was my son's name. The same spelling, the same middle name, every letter identical, except for the surname. I called Chi-Jiok immediately. You named your son Ethan Chisholm. He sounded cheerful. Yeah. Isn't it beautiful? Lillian said it sounded perfect with our surname. My heart pounded. Chi-Jiok, you knew that was my baby's name. He paused. Amara, it's just a name. You don't own it. It's not just a name, I snapped. We told you months ago what we chose. That's not true. Lillian's voice suddenly cut in, sharp and defensive. You said you hadn't decided yet. Besides, since our kids share the same last name, we thought it would be cute for them to have matching first names too. They're cousins, almost like twins. I could barely speak. You did this on purpose. Lillian's tone turned icy. You're overreacting. You're not the only person who can name their child Ethan if you're that bothered. Change your son's name. The line went dead. That night, I cried harder than I had in months. Tund tried to calm me, but I could see the anger behind his calm face. They stole from us, Amara, he said quietly. Not money, not property, something much worse. Something we created out of love. I wanted to fight back, to post it online, to call everyone in the family and tell them what Lillian had done. But then I thought of Ethan, sleeping peacefully beside me, unaware of all this pettiness. I decided to do the one thing they would never expect, stay quiet. For 5 months, I said nothing. When we went to family gatherings, I smiled politely while Lillian called out Ethan to her son, pretending not to notice how it stung each time. But inside, I had already made up my mind. 5 months later, I walked into the National Population Commission office with Tund. I'd like to file a name change, I told the clerk. From Ethan Chisholm Tund to Nathan Chisholm Tund The woman glanced up from her papers. Any particular reason? I smiled faintly. It's personal. When I signed the papers, something in me unclenched. It wasn't about giving up the name. It was about reclaiming my peace. Nathan meant gift, and that's what my son was. A gift, not a competition, not a trophy. Just love made flesh. I didn't tell anyone, not even my parents. I thought it was over, but I underestimated how far Lillian would go once she found out the truth. For months, peace returned to our home. Nathan was growing fast, smiling at everything, babbling in that sweet, unformed baby language that made my heart melt. Every morning, I'd whisper his name softly against his forehead. Nathan, it felt pure, untouched, safe. We had stopped visiting Chi-Jiok and Lillian as often. The air around them was too heavy, too full of things unsaid when we did meet at family events. I stayed polite, kept my distance. Tund said it was better that way, no drama. Amara, let silence be your strength. It worked, for a while, until my mother's birthday. The celebration was supposed to be simple, a small gathering at my parents' house. Close family only. My father grilled fish in the backyard, while the children played under the mango tree. Lillian arrived late, as always, in a glittery dress that screamed for attention. Chi-Ji-ok followed behind her, carrying their son Ethan. Every time she called his name, my stomach tightened. Still, I kept my face neutral. I'd learned to smile through things that hurt. Mom insisted on taking a family photo with all the kids. "Come, stand together," she said, motioning to me and Lillian. She looked between the two boys, both around the same age, both with curly hair and soft brown eyes. Ethan and Ethan. She chuckled, "We'll confuse them one day." Tund and I froze. My father looked uneasy. But before I could say a word, Lillian gave a smug little smile and said, "Actually, Amara changed her son's name." The entire room fell silent. My mother turned to me. "What?" I swallowed hard. "Yes, I did." Lillian folded her arms. "She changed it without telling anyone. I just found out last week when I saw his health record at the clinic. She's been pretending all this while." "Oh. It is," Lillian shot back. "You made us look like fools. We thought our sons shared a special bond, and you went behind our backs to change it. How petty can you be, Amara? You stole my son's name." "Lillian, you knew we chose it first. You admitted it yourself," she smirked. "I didn't steal anything. You don't own a name. But changing it after we used it. It makes us look bad. Everyone in the family thinks we copied you." "Because you did," Tund said. Chi-Ji-ok finally spoke, his tone somewhere between defensive and uncertain. "Maybe you could have told us first. Amara, it looks like you were trying to humiliate us. Humiliate you. Chi-Ji-ok, you watched your wife take something that meant the world to me, and you said nothing, and now you want to play the victim." He looked away. Lillian, emboldened by his silence, went on, "You're ungrateful. We just wanted our boys to have a bond, but you've made it ugly. You're the one who turned family into rivalry." I took a deep breath. "No, Lillian. You did that when you decided your ego mattered more than respect. That's none of your business." Tund said sharply. I stared at her, unable to believe what I was hearing. "That's childish." I turned to him, feeling something inside me break. Then I walked out. I didn't care that people were staring or that my mother was calling after me. For the first time, I didn't try to fix the tension. I let it burn. A week later, Lillian posted a long, indirect rant on Facebook. Something about certain people being jealous, and how some women can't stand to share blessings. I ignored it, but friends started messaging me privately. *, is she talking about you? *. It was humiliating not because of what she said, but because I refused to stoop that low to correct her lies. Tund wanted to confront Chi-Ji-ok. I begged him not to. "They're waiting for that," I told him. "If we argue, they win attention. Let's stay silent." It turned out silence wasn't enough. 2 months later, a letter came to our home official with a lawyer's seal. I thought it was a mistake at first, but when I opened it, my hands went cold. Plaintiff, Chi-Ji-ok and Lillian Okafor. Defendant, Amara and Tund Nwosu. Case, emotional distress and breach of contract. I read it 3 times before I could even process the words. They were suing us for emotional trauma caused by deceptive conduct, in changing our son's name and breaking a mutual agreement to name both children Ethan. "What mutual agreement?" I whispered, my voice shaking. Tund took the letter, scanning it with disbelief. "They're insane." I laughed, but it wasn't real laughter. It was the kind that escapes when you're too angry to cry. "They stole our name, Tund. Now they're suing us for changing it." I sat down slowly, feeling dizzy. This can't be happening. But it was. A week later, another notice arrived, a court date. Lillian had turned our family feud into a public war. I thought Chi-Ji-ok would come to his senses before it reached court. I thought maybe, deep down, he'd realize this had gone too far. But when my mother called, her tone was tight and worried. "Amara, they said you betrayed them. That you made them look stupid in front of the family." "Betrayed them?" I repeated, stunned. "Mom, they stole my child's name." She sighed. "I know. But your brother says Lillian hasn't stopped crying. He said she's depressed because people mocked them for copying you." I almost dropped my phone. "So they humiliated themselves, and somehow that's my fault." "Please, Amara," my mother pleaded. "Can't you apologize and end it? Families shouldn't fight like this." Something in me hardened. For years, I had been the peacemaker, the one who swallowed pain so everyone else could be comfortable. Not this time. "No, Mom," I said softly but firmly. "This time, they're going to learn what it means to lie." The night before the first hearing, I sat by Nathan's crib, watching him sleep. His tiny chest rose and fell, his lips parted in peaceful dreams. I thought about how something so innocent had become the center of so much ugliness. Tund walked in quietly, placing a hand on my shoulder. "Are you nervous?" "Not nervous," I said. "Just sad. Sad that my own brother could stand beside someone who thinks pain is a game." He kissed my forehead. "Tomorrow, we tell the truth. Let the judge see who's lying." I nodded, gripping his hand. "This isn't about revenge anymore, Tund. It's about protecting our peace." The next morning, we walked into the courthouse together, heads high, hearts steady. Lillian and Chi-Jiok were already there, sitting with their lawyer. She looked triumphant, like someone who thought she'd already won. When our eyes met, she smirked. Ready to lose, Amara? I smiled back calmly. I don't lose when I have the truth. And for the first time since this madness began, I felt something close to peace. Because the truth, quiet and unshaken, was on my side. The days leading up to the first hearing stretched like years. Every time I thought about my brother sitting beside Lillian in that courtroom, signing his name under a lie, my stomach twisted. It wasn't just the betrayal, it was the audacity of it. To stand before the law and pretend we were the ones who had wronged them. The news spread fast among the family. Everyone had an opinion, of course. Some believed Lillian. Some pitied me but begged me to just settle. Others avoided taking sides altogether. But in Nigeria, silence is never neutral, it leans toward the loudest person. And Lillian had made sure her voice carried. She told everyone I'd stolen their idea. That we'd made a verbal agreement to name our sons the same. I couldn't decide what was worse, the lie itself, or how many people seemed willing to believe it, because she said it with enough conviction. Tund handled it better than I did. He stayed calm, practical. He met with the lawyer, gathered the documents, and filed our defense. They have nothing, he told me every night. We'll prove it. But even knowing that didn't stop the ache. I found myself withdrawing more and more. I stopped answering calls from relatives. Every conversation turned into an interrogation disguised as concern. Amara, can't you forgive them? Their family. Just change the name back. Is it that deep? Lillian said you embarrassed her. Surely you can apologize. Apologize for what? For defending my child's name. For daring to have boundaries. One afternoon, I sat in the living room scrolling through old pictures of Chi-Jiok and me. We were children, in most of them laughing, playing in muddy fields, chasing each other down the compound. We'd always been close. I was the big sister who shielded him from punishment, shared my food, lent him my money when he was broke in university. I even helped him when Lillian lost her job. And now that same brother was accusing me in court of emotional distress. I stared at one of the photos, our arms slung over each other's shoulders. I didn't recognize that boy anymore. The first hearing came and went quickly. Our lawyer, Mr. Ez, a calm man in his 50s, spoke with measured confidence. There was no written or verbal contract, he said clearly. The plaintiffs cannot sue for emotional distress over a personal decision. That did not concern them. Naming one's own child is not a breach of any duty, legal or moral. Lillian's lawyer objected, of course, waving a printed WhatsApp screenshot. There's evidence of an understanding between both parties. The judge frowned, examining it. It was a cropped chat from the family group, just Lillian asking, what name are you choosing? And me replying, you line C after the birth, That was their proof. The judge raised an eyebrow. How does this constitute an agreement? Their lawyer stammered, trying to spin it into something serious. But the judge wasn't convinced. He scheduled another hearing for witness testimony. After court, Tund squeezed my hand. We're fine. He didn't buy their nonsense. But Lillian wasn't done. That evening, she went on social media again. Some people pretend to be holy but are vindictive inside, she wrote. They change their children's names out of spite, but God sees hearts. The comments poured in, some supportive, most mocking her, but I didn't respond. I refused to feed her drama. At night, I found my peace in the small things. Nathan's laughter echoing through the house. The smell of his baby lotion. The soft weight of his tiny hand clutching my finger. He didn't care about names, lawsuits, or pride. All he cared about was that I was there. One night, as I rocked him to sleep, I whispered, "They can have the name, my love, but they'll never have your spirit." Tund overheard and came to stand behind me. "You know," he said softly, "this is why they'll never beat you. You don't fight with noise. You fight with grace." I smiled faintly. Grace feels heavy sometimes. I know, but it always wins in the end. As the weeks passed, the lawsuit became the talk of our extended family. At a cousin's wedding, I could feel the whispers follow me through the hall. "That's her," someone said behind me. The one fighting her brother in court. I kept my head high. I wasn't ashamed anymore, just tired. Mom tried again to intervene. "Amara, you're tearing the family apart," she said over the phone one evening. "I didn't file the lawsuit, Mom," I reminded her. "I know," she said softly, "but your brother is hurting." "So am I." She went quiet. That was the first time she didn't have a reply. Our lawyer gathered more evidence, the original birth certificate, the hospital record showing we'd registered Ethan's name months before Lillian's delivery, the date of her son's registration, the social media posts where she flaunted the twin name idea. Everything lined up perfectly. The truth was becoming undeniable. Still, I couldn't shake the sadness. Each document felt like a reminder that our family had become a case file. Two siblings, once inseparable, now facing each other through lawyers and affidavits. I spent a lot of time praying at night, not for victory, but for peace. I asked God to help me let go of the bitterness, even while standing my ground. And slowly, something inside me shifted. I stopped needing their apology. I stopped needing them to admit they were wrong. I just wanted to be free from their chaos. The second hearing arrived sooner than expected. When I saw Chi-Jiok take the stand, my heart hurt, not from anger, but from the hollow look in his eyes. He avoided mine the whole time. Lillian whispered to him constantly, coaching his every word. Their lawyer tried to paint a story of betrayal. She promised to share the name. Your Honor, the defendant's sudden change caused humiliation for my clients, who were mocked by relatives. The judge leaned forward. Do you have proof of any agreement? No written proof, Your Honor, but there was mutual understanding. Understanding, the judge repeated, is not a contract, and humiliation caused by your own assumption is not emotional distress under any statute. Lillian's face went pale. Tund glanced at me with a small smile. The judge wasn't done. From what I see, this case stems from pride and rivalry, not law. You may proceed to your next witness. Lillian's lawyer quickly declined. Their case was falling apart. Outside the courtroom, Lillian cornered me near the steps. You think you've won already, she hissed. This isn't over. I looked her straight in the eyes. It was over the moment you turned love into competition. Then I walked past her. That night, when I tucked Nathan into bed, I felt something I hadn't felt in months: relief. For the first time, I wasn't angry. I was done trying to understand people who thrived on chaos. Tund sat beside me on the couch later that night, his hand in mine. Whatever happens at the final hearing, he said, we've already won. You didn't lose your peace. I smiled. Maybe that's what strength really is, learning when not to fight. He nodded, and knowing silence doesn't mean surrender. I looked over at Nathan sleeping in his cot and whispered to myself. I named him right after all. Nathan, my gift. The letter arrived on a Tuesday morning. A thick white envelope stamped with a red seal and my brother's name printed in bold. For a few seconds, I thought it was some kind of misunderstanding, maybe a family invitation, or an official document that accidentally came to me. But when I slid it open and began to read, my hands went cold. Plaintiff, Chijioke Okafor and Lillian Okafor. Defendant, Amara Tund and Tund Tund. Cause, emotional distress and breach of contract. I stared at the words until they blurred. My brother, my own brother, was suing me. Tund took the letter from my trembling hands and read it in silence. Then, he laughed. Not out of amusement, but disbelief. They're suing you. For what? Because you changed our son's name. I nodded numbly. He shook his head. This is insane. Apparently, Lillian had claimed that when we both discussed our pregnancies, we verbally agreed that our sons would share the same first name. A family tradition, according to her. My decision to change Nathan's name had caused her severe emotional trauma and social embarrassment, especially since she had already told everyone that our boys were named twins. Reading those words made me feel physically ill. It wasn't enough that she'd stolen something. Deeply personal now she was, twisting it into my wrongdoing. Tund called my mother immediately. Her voice, small and anxious, came through the line. Amara, your brother says you betrayed them. He said there was an understanding. An understanding. I snapped. Mom, they stole our name. Please, my child, she whispered. Don't make this worse. Just talk to him. But I was done talking. When I met our lawyer the next day, she was calm and confident. Her name was Barrister Keen a sharp woman with eyes that missed nothing. After reading through the complaint, she looked up at me and asked, Did you ever sign or verbally promise to use the same name? Never, I said firmly. She begged to know the name before my delivery, and I refused to tell her. That's all. Keen nodded. Good, because even if you had agreed casually, a verbal chat during pregnancy doesn't count as a contract, especially not one concerning something as personal as a child's name. I sighed in relief, but a part of me still felt heavy. She's my brother's wife, I murmured. I can't believe she's doing this. Keen smiled faintly. Family doesn't always mean fair, Mrs. Tund, but truth is truth. We'll make sure the judge sees it. The case was filed in a local civil court. When we walked into the courtroom weeks later, I felt the weight of every pair of eyes turned toward me. Chijioke sat across from us, expression unreadable. Lillian was beside him, dressed in white and pretending to look fragile, the perfect picture of an emotional victim. I almost laughed when I saw her. She'd really gone all in. The judge, a middle-aged woman named Justice Fashola, adjusted her glasses and looked down at the papers before her. This is an unusual case, she began. A family dispute over a child's name. Let's proceed. Lillian's lawyer went first, painting her as a loving mother betrayed by her sister-in-law's sudden decision. She and the defendant had an emotional understanding, he said, a promise that their sons, being cousins, would share a name as a symbol of unity. My client planned their christening around this idea, told family and friends, and was humiliated when the defendant abruptly broke that bond. When he finished, Lillian dabbed her eyes dramatically with a tissue. I nearly rolled mine. Then it was our turn. Keen stood gracefully, her voice calm but cutting. Your Honor, there was never a contract, written or verbal. The plaintiff's claim is based entirely on assumption and entitlement. In fact, it is *they* who first used the defendant's chosen name, without permission, fully aware that it belonged to her child. She handed the judge a printed message record from my phone, a conversation I'd had with Lillian 2 weeks before her delivery. Lillian, come on. Tell me the name. I won't steal it, I promise. Me. We'll reveal it after birth. Lillian, fine. I'll just pick something nice myself. When the judge read that, her eyebrows rose slightly. So you never disclosed the name to her? No, Your Honor. I said clearly. She saw it later on my baby's birth announcement. I had posted it on Facebook. 3 months later, she used the exact same name first and middle. I never said we'd share it. The judge nodded slowly. Continue? Keen gestured toward Lillian. The plaintiff's actions suggest imitation, not an agreement. If anyone suffered emotional distress, it was my client, whose original choice was publicly copied by her sister-in-law. The silence that followed was thick. Lillian shifted uncomfortably in her seat, her act beginning to crumble. When the hearing ended, Justice Fashola leaned forward and spoke firmly. This court finds no evidence of any contract, verbal or otherwise, between the parties. Furthermore, the defendant acted within her full parental rights to change her child's name. The plaintiff's claim is dismissed for lack of cause. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. Then it hit me, we'd won. Lillian's face turned red as the judge continued. This case should never have reached a courtroom. Family matters should be handled with maturity, not malice. You may all leave. As soon as we stepped outside, reporters and curious family members swarmed around us. Chiji-oke wouldn't look me in the eye. Lillian muttered something under her breath, clutching her purse tightly like it was my fault her lies had backfired. But I didn't care. For the first time in months, I felt free. That night, after putting Nathan to bed, I sat by his crib and whispered softly, "Your name is yours, my love. No one can take that away again." Tund came up behind me, wrapping his arms around my shoulders. "We did it," he murmured. "Justice spoke for us." I smiled faintly, leaning into him. "It wasn't just about the name," I said. "It was about being silenced about. Watching people take what's yours and pretend they're the victims." He nodded, "And you didn't let them." I looked at her son's peaceful face, the moonlight brushing his cheeks, and thought, yes, we won. But more than that, we rose above. The news of the judgment spread through the family like wildfire. It started with a single call from my mother, then messages from cousins, then distant relatives I hadn't spoken to in years suddenly sending me voice notes about how sorry they were. By the end of the week, everyone had picked a side. My mother was quiet to quiet, which meant she was disappointed but couldn't defend Chiji-oke anymore. My father, on the other hand, was furious. How could my own son take his sister to court over nonsense? He shouted over the phone. Did he lose his sense? I didn't say much. I just told him the truth. Dad, it wasn't nonsense to them. It was pride. Lillian wanted to win something, anything. There was a pause before he replied softly, and Chiji-oke followed her into foolishness. 2 days later, Lillian went on Facebook Live. Of course she did. She sat in their living room, with a carefully lit background and tear-streaked cheeks, saying how she never wanted things to go this far. "I just thought we had an agreement," she sniffled dramatically. "It hurts when family betrays you. I thought our boys would grow up like twins, now we can't even talk to them." The comments section lit up immediately. Half the viewers called her out, "But you stole the name first," while the other half wrote messages of sympathy. I didn't respond. Tund had already told me, "Don't give her the attention she wants. She's feeding off it." Still, seeing strangers talk about me like I was some cold-hearted sister made my stomach twist. I shut off my phone and focused on Nathan, who was learning to crawl that week. His laughter was my best medicine. But not everyone was so forgiving. A few days later, Chiji-oke showed up at my gate. It was raining, and he looked nothing like the confident man I grew up with. His shirt was soaked, his eyes red from exhaustion. "Amara," he said quietly when I opened the door. "Can we talk?" I hesitated before nodding. 5 minutes. He stepped inside, dripping water onto the tiles, and stood awkwardly by the couch. "I didn't mean for it to go that far," he said finally. "Lillian was hurt. She said you embarrassed her, that you looked down on us. I just wanted peace." "Peace," I repeated, my voice trembling. "You let her drag me to court, accuse me of a contract that never existed, and made me defend my child's name in front of strangers, and you call that peace?" He looked down. "I thought you'd just settle. You always do." That sentence cut deeper than any insult. Because he was right, I'd always been the peacemaker, the one who forgave too quickly, who swallowed hurt for the sake of keeping family ties intact. Not anymore. "Chiji-oke," I said firmly, "you watched your wife humiliate me. You let her lie about me, and you never once told her to stop. So don't come here asking for peace now that you've lost." He opened his mouth to argue, then closed it again. When he finally spoke, his voice cracked. "You've changed." I nodded. "Maybe I finally grew up." He left without another word. That night, my mother called again, crying softly. "He came home angry," she said. "He's saying you disrespected him." I closed my eyes. "Mom, he disrespected me the moment he chose his wife's pride over truth." She didn't argue. Maybe because deep down, she knew it was true. By the following month, things began to crumble in their household. I heard from my cousin Ada that Chiji-oke and Lillian were fighting constantly. Their business page on Instagram went quiet. Clients complained online that they weren't fulfilling orders. Then, someone leaked a video Lillian shouting at Chiji-oke in their driveway, accusing him of ruining her image. It spread like wildfire, the same way her courtroom lies had. Tund showed me the clip while shaking his head. "You see? When your heart isn't clean, it shows." I watched it silently. A part of me pitied my brother, but another part, the stronger part, felt nothing. You can't keep rescuing people who are determined to drown. A few weeks later, at our parents' anniversary dinner, we finally saw them again. Lillian sat stiffly across the table, pretending I didn't exist. Chijio tried to start small talk, but it felt forced. The air between us was thick with all the unspoken things we couldn't and do. When dessert came, Lillian muttered just loud enough for me to hear. Some people forget blood when they start winning. I smiled calmly. And some people remember blood only when they lose. She glared, but said nothing. My father cleared his throat, breaking the tension. Enough of this nonsense. Your siblings, end it. But I knew something he didn't. Some endings weren't ugly. Some were necessary. That night, as Tund and I drove home, he reached over and squeezed my hand. You handled that with grace, he said. I handled it with experience, I corrected softly. When people show you how far they'll go to hurt you, believe them. The next morning, I woke up to a message from Ada again. Lillian moved out of their house. She took the baby and went to her mother's. Your brother's been calling everyone, asking for advice. I stared at the screen for a long moment, feeling a strange mixture of sadness and relief. Maybe this was the fallout they needed, not to destroy them, but to make them see what pride costs. For me, though, the storm was over. Nathan was happy, healthy, and growing stronger every day. His laughter filled our home, erasing the echoes of courtroom walls and family betrayal. I looked at his tiny face and whispered, "We're okay now, my love. The name thieves can't touch us anymore." And for the first time in a long time, I truly believed it. Life settled into a new rhythm after that storm. For the first time in months, I woke up without tension in my chest. There were no new court letters, no family gossip threads, no calls from relatives pretending to check on me just to collect details. Just peace, quiet, ordinary peace. Nathan turned one around that time. We celebrated with a small garden party. Nothing grand, just laughter, balloons, cake, and the people who had truly stood by us. As he smashed his cake with his little hands and giggled, I felt something loosen inside me. Maybe it was closure. Maybe it was relief. Or maybe it was just realizing that I didn't owe anyone the version of myself that kept the family glued together. That version of me was gone. Tund was happier too. He had always been the calm one between us, but through the chaos, I'd seen another side of him, fiercely protective, uncheckable. One evening after we put Nathan to sleep, I thanked him. For what? He asked, smiling. For staying steady when I was losing it, I said. For reminding me that we weren't crazy. He chuckled softly. You didn't need reminding. You just needed to stop explaining yourself to people who already made up their minds. That line stayed with me. It summed up everything. About a month later, my brother called. I almost didn't answer, but something in me, maybe old habit, made me pick up. His voice was quieter than I remembered. Amara, he said. I just wanted to know how Nathan's doing. I hesitated. He's fine. He's walking now. That's good, he said. Then, after a long pause, I know I messed up. The silence that followed was heavy. I waited, letting him continue. I lost a lot after that case, he said quietly. Lillian moved out. Clients stopped trusting us. People talk. And when I look back, I just wonder how we let a name cause all this. I almost told him it wasn't about a name. It was about respect. But I held back. Some lessons had to sit in silence. I don't hate you, Chijioke, I said finally. But trust, that's something I can't rebuild overnight. He sighed. I understand. I just wanted to say I'm sorry. It wasn't enough to erase the damage, but it was something. For the first time, his voice sounded like the brother I used to know. After that call, things began to soften slightly. We weren't close again, but we were civil, polite hellos at family gatherings. Small updates about the kids, nothing deep. It was enough. Lillian, on the other hand, didn't speak to me. Not even once. She'd made peace with her bitterness, and I'd made peace with not needing hers. Sometimes people don't have to apologize for you to move on. Sometimes you just grow beyond the place where their opinion matters. By the end of that year, I started something new, a small business I'd been postponing for years. A baby name consultation and keepsake service, ironically enough. When my first few clients came, they smiled and said, "You have such a beautiful way of finding meaning in names." I smiled back, thinking how life had turned full circle. I had once been hurt by a stolen name, and now I was helping people choose theirs with love and meaning, making sure no one else ever felt robbed of that special moment. Tund teased me about it sometimes. From courtroom battles to naming babies, he'd laugh. Life is funny like that, I'd say, and it was. By the time Nathan turned 2, he could already say his name proudly. Nathan Chisan Tunda, he'd announce in his tiny voice, grinning. Every syllable sounded like victory to me, because it wasn't just a name, it was the story of everything we'd survived. One evening, as I tucked him into bed, I thought back to everything that had happened, the stolen name, the lawsuit, the betrayal, the hurt. It all felt distant now, like something that happened in another lifetime. I whispered softly, "Nathan, your name means gift. And that's exactly what you are, not just to me, but to every part of my life that needed healing." He yawned, already half asleep, and murmured, "Love you, Mama." And just like that, everything was worth it. Sometimes, when I look back, I still wonder how something as small as a name could unravel so much. But I've learned that names carry stories, and stories carry pride, memory, and love. When someone tries to steal that, they aren't just taking a word. They're taking the meaning behind it. That's why I'll never forget what happened. Not because I'm holding on to anger, but because it taught me something about people and about myself. It's been almost 3 years now since the lawsuit ended. Life has gone on, as it always does. The world didn't stop because of our family drama, though at the time it felt like it might. Nathan is in nursery school now. He's bright, funny, and full of curiosity. Sometimes when I pick him up, his teachers smile and say, he's always correcting us when we mispronounce his name. He says it's Nathan, not Ethan. Every time I hear that, I smile. He may not understand the story behind it yet, but one day he will. And when that day comes, I'll tell him not about the betrayal or the lawsuit, but about standing firm about how his name was fought for. Not because it was unique, but because it was his. A few months ago, I saw Chijioke again at our father's birthday celebration. He looked tired, older than I remembered, but there was something humble in his eyes that hadn't been there before. When he approached me, I braced myself, but he just smiled faintly. Nathan's getting big, he said. I nodded. And your son? He's fine, he said softly. We changed his name, you know. He goes by Daniel now. That surprised me. Why? He shrugged. Because Lillian said she was tired of the comparisons. And maybe it was time we stopped pretending to share something that was never ours. I didn't say anything for a while. Then I simply replied, that's good. He smiled awkwardly, like he wanted to say more but didn't know how. And for the first time since everything happened, I didn't feel the urge to fix the silence. Sometimes, peace isn't found in what we say, it's in what we finally stop trying to explain. After the party, I sat outside on the porch, watching Nathan chase bubbles in the air. Tan came to sit beside me, a quiet smile on his face. Feels different now, doesn't it? He said. I nodded. It does. Like everything that used to hurt finally ran out of power. He put an arm around me. Because you stopped letting it define you. I leaned against him, watching our son laugh under the fading orange sky. I think that's the real victory, I said. Not the court case, not proving we were right, just finding peace again. Later that night, after everyone had gone to bed, I opened the small memory box I kept in my drawer. Inside were the hospital tags, the birth certificate, and the old documents including the one that changed his name from Ethan to Nathan. I ran my fingers across the paper, remembering that morning at the registry how I had walked in with tears in my eyes and walked out with quiet strength. It wasn't rebellion. It was self-respect. It was choosing my child's story over someone else's approval, and that choice had rewritten everything. When people ask me about forgiveness, I tell them this. Forgiveness isn't forgetting. It's remembering without bitterness. It's being able to look at the person who hurt you and feel nothing but calm. I don't hate Lillian. I don't even think about her much anymore. She became a chapter, not the whole book. And my brother, well, he's learning, slowly. We talk sometimes. We'll never be as close as we were, but there's respect now, and that's enough.